Perry Simpson was sitting at the kitchen table across from his wife Della when he heard those words. Let's face it, you're 50, overweight, and losing strength. You've been depressed ever since you lost your job. I make 3 times as much as you with my stupid internet sales. Basically, there's an alpha here, and I'm going to communicate with other alphas men. Your new role is to be supportive. Della was 42 and still the stunning woman Perry had married 20 years ago. Their 2 children, Alan and Eileen, were in college. Perry has been home with them for the past 5 years, ever since he lost his job at an advertising agency. But now they were almost not at home, and obviously Della will be gone soon too, at least for a week. She announced that she was leaving on Friday for a resort with one of her clients, Thane Bossman. It was Wednesday. Della probably thought Perry would be shocked and hesitant, not ready for this. I was wrong. One of the things that attracted Della to Perry was his intelligence and ability to foresee events. She seems to have forgotten about it. Being fat and depressed still leaves room for insightful thinking. As Della made her statement, Perry nodded. He then took a bite of the tuna he had prepared for dinner. Della was waiting. Perry was eating. Finally, Della said, "You have nothing to say. How pathetic you are, fat, pathetic coward." Perry finished eating. He stood up to clear his plate. Della barely touched her dinner. Perry asked, "Have you finished eating? Have some pie." If this had been possible, Della would likely have been a victim of spontaneous combustion. Instead, she jumped up from her seat and left the room. Perry picked up her chair and placed it back at the table. He cleared her plate and washed the dishes. Perry was a little surprised by the timing of her statement. It was sooner than he thought. Few weeks. But he had been mostly prepared for this for a month now, ever since they had gone to the party at Thane's palatal house. There he saw that Thane and Della were something. Everyone else noticed it too. Perry hid in a dark corner and just watched. He concluded that they were going to the bedroom, but not that night, and not before that either. However, they were definitely a growing couple. This realization jolted Perry into action. He took a close look at himself and his behavior lately. He was shocked. Perry was 5 feet 9 inches tall and now weighed 188 pounds, 30 pounds more than before he was fired. His hair was long and unkempt. His complexion was pale. He breathed heavily as he walked up the stairs. In short, Perry understood why Della was going to leave the marriage. But, other than some of her sarcasm, she made no attempt to talk to him about his problems or try to bring him back to his old self. The day after the party Sunday, Perry walked 4 miles, and 4 miles the next day too. He spent some time lifting dumbbells in his basement. Perry didn't have to spend a lot of time on his dumb business of e-commerce. Despite his depression, he was good at it. He had a talent for financial research, and he recently paid off. Della's idea of her income was far from reality. The money went to the bank account of his company, which he registered as a corporation. He knew he needed to change. After visiting Thane's palace, he began working on it. He did it for himself, but also to have hope of saving his marriage. He and Della raised a family and were close for a long time until he was fired. Everything went down slowly and now rapidly. He decided to make an effort with her. Now her statement showed that he had failed at this. Perry exerted himself physically, but only when Della wasn't there to see it. He thought she should notice. And if not, well, maybe someone else will notice. By the time Della performed, Perry had already lost 175 pounds, and some of that weight was muscle mass. But Della called him fat. She stopped looking at him. Della was furious at Perry's reaction to her plan to sleep with Thane. She expected him to beg her not to leave. But he didn't seem to care. This made her angry. She left and drove off in her big realtor SUV. As she drove, her anger turned into a brief flash of real sadness. What happened to her old husband? He became fat and emaciated. Della thought about her plan to sleep with Thane. She was looking forward to this. Thane was a former basketball player, 2 years in the NBA, but he was rich thanks to his rap music company. He started it while still playing. Sometimes he did the gigs himself, but the real money came from the guys he found. When the money started coming in, he hired real writers for his guys. Even more money started coming in. Della was looking for a suitable home for him with potential for a studio. But for Della, the main thing about Thane was that he was hot, pumped up and big, also smart and funny. And finally, he loved married white women like her. The thought of spending a week with him. He was 5 years younger than her. Plus, Della has been unhappy in her marriage ever since Perry lost his job. Instead of going out and finding a new one, he just sat at home, fiddling with the computer and eating too much. Yes, he was there for the kids when she was very busy with sales, but it seemed like he wasn't trying, and this disgusted her, and his plump body in bed. They had sex maybe 10 times in the last year. Meanwhile, the guys always looked after her. She sent them off. Then Thane came to the office, asking for help in finding a place to rent and buy. She gave him a 1,000-watt smile. He answered her the same way. But she turned him off for 6 weeks. She flirted and went to a party at the house she found for him. At the party, she and Thane were clearly attracted to each other. It was almost as if she was the owner. Still, she stayed away from him until she couldn't anymore. Until she convinced herself that she deserved Thane and his big, brown, exciting body. So, she agreed to a week at the Mid-Lake Resort, and she told Perry about the plan and got his unexpected reaction. Then, Latrell Johnson was a phenomenon in middle school and high school. He was also quite good at college basketball. During his sophomore year, he changed his name to Thane Bossman. Better name recognition, but really, from then on, he was just Thane. One name, like Shaq or Kareem. Only he was a defender, 6'3" and fast. He was also an object of desire. He had a boyish face and a killer smile. Luttrell grew up poor, and only his size, intelligence, and quickness allowed him to go to college. Otherwise, he would have been in prison, or worse, his older brother was dead. The youngest, Rodney, was in a wheelchair. His father was not around. He bought his mother a house in her hometown in Virginia, downstate. Luttrell was angry at the world. When he was in college, he saw how easy it was for white guys, most of them. They had an open path to success. They didn't have to struggle much, come under fire, or go to prison. They had women. This was one thing Latrell could take from them. It gave him deep satisfaction to do this. Sleeping with this lucky white guy's wife is better than he could do. Send her back to him. He's done this many times. Twice my husband wanted to watch. Thane had these guys crawling and begging. He put a collar and leash on one of them and led him around like a dog. Thane wondered what happened in the marriage after that. Sometimes Thane's antics with white wives led to divorce. Sometimes to abortion. One day to the birth of a son whom he supported with his mother. Luttrell considered women his hobby. Making money was his main passion, and he was good at it too. He saw every opportunity and took advantage of it ruthlessly. This didn't make him popular. He had to hire security. This last woman, Della, was an option for a long time. She was difficult to reach and resisted his subtle advances. He met her husband at a party in a new rented house. Weak, fat loser, and loser. The guy simply disappeared while Thane openly monopolized his wife. Thane suggested that the underdog Perry, he thought, might like to watch. So Luttrell was very happy when Della agreed to a week of passion at the resort. He was going to show her there, wedding ring and all. After that, Luttrell thought he might keep Della longer than usual. If she turned out to be as good in bed as he thought. She must have really missed sex since her husband was such a loser. She was older, but that didn't bother him. She looked great, and he felt proud that he could take a woman away from her longtime man. Perry. Perry waited for Della to calm down. He slept in the guest room and continued to cook and clean the house. There was no way he was going to beg her. And to be honest, he didn't believe that begging would stop the trip. It would only make him even weaker than he already looked. He didn't care that he looked weak as long as he wasn't weak, and he became stronger. Della calmed down after Wednesday evening. For the next 2 days, she treated him like a servant. Thane told her that some husbands become submissive when the wife asserts her sexual freedom, so she decided to treat Perry as an employee, and he seemed to accept it. He cooked and cleaned as usual, but he slept in the guest room, the farthest from her. Perry watched as Della packed her things for the trip. He carried her bags downstairs and placed them by the door. On Thursday night, he cooked a very nice dinner of Chilean base with greens and homemade bread. Della praised him for this. "Such a delicious dinner, Perry. Thank you. When I get back, I'll take you to a wonderful dinner." Perry nodded. He saw that Della believed that he had come to terms with her new sexual assertiveness. But that evening, he slept in the guest room, despite Della inviting him to spend the night with her. He could see that Della was slightly worried about this. He was sure that she would be fucked well on Friday and all week. He was also sure that she would do something to assert her dominance over him if he slept with her then. So he didn't. He made one effort, however, in light of their long marriage. Before going to bed Thursday night, Perry sat across from Della in the living room. He said, "Della, I'm not accepting your offer of sex today. It's just an offer of pity sex. I will never accept pity sex from you. So this trip, well, maybe everything after it will be pity sex." Della said, "Don't be stupid, Perry. You need to adjust to this new reality. I'm sure you will. We can still have a sexual relationship. Sure, pity sex every now and then, or maybe not even that. You need to reconsider, and it's almost too late." "It's late, dear. We've had an imbalance in our marriage for a long time. Now it's just become obvious." Perry didn't say another word. He got up and went to bed. In the guest room, Thane pulled up Friday morning in a swanky red convertible sports car. Perry carried Della's bags out and put them in the back seat. Thane watched this and was sure that when he returned Della to her husband, she would have complete control over him. He considered giving Perry a tip. He decided that such a gesture would help define a new relationship. So he took $10 out of his front pocket and handed it to Perry. He said, "Here, Perry," and he grinned. Perry looked down and said, "Thank you, sir." He looked at Della, who was looking at Thane like he was a god. Perry returned to the house as Thane drove away, taking his wife away. This act, not the money, was what he thanked Thane for. Perry went to his guest closet and pulled out a duffel bag and a small suitcase. He changed into jeans and a polo with sneakers. "I put on my Orioles baseball cap." He then walked out of the house, turned around, and threw the house key back into the mail slot. He left his wedding ring and Thane's $10 on the kitchen table. No note. He headed towards the nearest shopping center, where he left his new car. He waved to his nosy neighbor as he left. The new vehicle was a used Mercedes camper van. It cost him a little over $100,000, but it was worth it. He packed his gym bag and suitcase with documents in the back and drove away from his life and his wife. He headed towards the state university, where his 2 children were studying. The drive took 2 hours, and he had lunch at a diner near campus. Salad. Then he changed his clothes and took a stroll around the large, pleasant central campus. Now he could run about 3 or 4 miles. Not very fast. His weight dropped to 170 pounds. Got a little more muscle, too. At 4 o'clock, he took out his old mobile phone and called the children. He told them that he was nearby and wanted to treat them to dinner. They both agreed, and he met them at 6:30 at a high-end Mexican restaurant 3 miles from their dorms. The van was parked around the corner. Alan and Eileen were both dressed smartly for the occasion, as was Perry. Both children were amazed at how good their father looked. Alan said, "Dad, you've lost weight. You've lost a lot of weight. What happened?" Eileen added, "Did your mom put you on a diet?" Perry said, "I'll explain everything. Let's sit down at the table." As they sat down and ordered margaritas, Perry said, "It's not that easy to say. Your mother is gone for a week with a new lover, a guy who calls himself Thane." Eileen was amazed. She said with some excitement, "You mean Thane, the music mogul? That Thane?" "Yes, asshole." "Oh, Dad, I mean, can you blame her?" Perry's response sounded completely emotionless. Yes. Alan said, I can blame her. How could she do this? Perry responded, well, I haven't been the best husband lately. More like a nanny with benefits. So I can blame her. And I also understand what she's doing. I won't forgive it, though. She hasn't made any attempt. Help. Drinks were brought. Eileen drank most of hers at once. Alan drank too. Perry just sat there. Eileen said, why can't you forgive? I mean, she cried quietly, but did not sob. You mean I'm an old fat guy, and he's young, sexy, and rich. So should I just accept it and deal with it? Alan said, no, but Dad, Thane probably won't keep her for long. And, just by looking at you, you're not the same as you were when we left. So you're suggesting I welcome her back? So what happens then? Eileen said, you would be better than before. You personally. But never better than him. Alan said, maybe not for pure sex, but she loves you and you love her. You know, she never tried to straighten me out when I was depressed. And then she just announced that she was now the alpha in the marriage, and I had to put up with her cheating on other alphas. Alan said, and that's not up for debate. No. The waitress came over and they ordered. The children took snacks and large dishes. Perry took the fish and vegetables. No dessert. Conversation was low-key during the meal. Perry then said, I have something to show you after dinner. They left the restaurant and Perry showed them his new toy. Both were clearly impressed. Alan studied the interior and Eileen looked under the hood. As a child, she loved to fix cars. Alan loved to cook. When they saw what he had, Alan asked, are you going to drive away with this? Yes, I have a new phone and a new email address. Please don't give them to your mother. I don't want to contact her. And I ask you not to discuss this day with her until she calls when she gets home. Alan asked, where are you going? Perry said, I'm going to Philadelphia for a baseball game. Then I'll head across the state to the Pittsburgh Pirates. After that, who knows? They said goodbye and Perry drove off to a nearby campsite. Alan drove Eileen back to campus. Neither of them was happy with the new family situation. Eventually, their anxiety brought them closer to each other. Perry took the battery out of his old phone and went to bed. The next morning, he connected to the internet and got down to business. Then he went to Philadelphia to watch Bryce Harper. Della. As Della left with Thane, she felt a little uneasy. She knew Perry and thought his submission might be an act. She thought about what he said about pity sex. This was more like what she might have expected from him. And indeed, he had a point. How could he hope to compete? She didn't mention this to Thane. Instead, she leaned over and kissed his cheek as he drove. She said, darling, when we arrive, I will kiss you from head to toe. Thane smiled and patted her hand. They moved on. Once Della and Thane checked into the resort and were in their room, Della proceeded to make good on her promise to kiss him from head to toe. Della and Thane stayed in bed until 7 in the evening. Della was in a state of sexual nirvana. She knew that this day her first with Thane would most likely be the best sex of her life. She didn't let him rest for long, and he didn't want to rest. Thane was almost taken aback by Della. She was like a wild animal. Her reactions in bed were the same as many of the women he had had before, but much more intense. Much more intense. At 7 in the evening, they took a shower, got dressed, and went to dinner. Thane knew that everyone in the restaurant could see that Della was his woman, and a good one at that. He was proud of it, and the respect that the staff showed him. Their week was a miracle. There was tennis, golf, horse riding, and sex. Mostly sex. The food was good too. By the time they were heading home in the little red car, they both promised that this week wouldn't be the end. Della meant it. Thane, sort of. He knew that he would have other women. But this one was his best so far. He thought he could get Della's husband to cook for them next week. But when he stopped the car at Della's house, no one came out to meet them. He honked his horn as he carried her bags out of the trunk. Nobody came out. Della pulled out the key, and Thane carried her bags to the door. As she opened the door, Della called out to Perry. There was no answer. Then Thane saw the key in the door. He pointed and said, "Look." Della saw and realized with horror what he was pointing at. She picked up the key and tried it in the lock, just to be sure. She already knew it was Perry's key, but when he turned around in the castle, Della fell to the floor. She sobbed, He's gone, Thane." Thane was surprised by her emotional reaction. He thought she didn't love this guy anymore. Otherwise, why would she do this to him? He said, "Come on, let's go inside and get settled. We can take stock. Let's see if he left a note or something." He picked her up from the floor. He looked around and saw his neighbor across the street, an elderly woman looking at them. Della and Thane searched the house for signs of where Perry might be. Della saw that his computer was missing, as well as some of his clothes. But his Camry was in the garage. Then she saw a wedding ring and money on the table. There was now no doubt what had happened. She went outside and saw Mrs. Friend Carter from the house opposite. Thane walked over as Mrs. Carter and Della met at the mailbox. Della asked, "Do you know where Perry is?" "No, he left the house about an hour after you, and the guy left in the red car. He didn't come back. He had a bag and a briefcase." "Which way did he go?" Mrs. Res Carter pointed east. "There, I don't know what you expected, Della." Della stuttered. Well, I mean. You put it all out there for everyone to see, Della. The whole neighborhood saw it. Well, me and Charles saw it." Charles was a neighbor on the other side of Della's house. Della said, "And you told everyone about it?" "Charles told me. He doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut." Della made a strange face and said, "Is that why Henry left you?" Charles not only chatted, but also, "Yes, I couldn't help but brag about having me. So, now he's alone, and I have a lover like you. But I'm still alone, just like you will be." She turned and walked back down her path. Della and Thane looked after her. Thane said, "You've got a whole little Peyton place here." Della didn't know what that meant. Thane watched old movies, but she didn't. But she got the point. She said, "Damn it, Thane, I thought Perry, that he'd get over it." "What do you want? He may be gone, and you can sleep with whoever you want. Of course, you won't have a house husband anymore, but you can hire help. He barely slept with me anyway, but he's good. I love him, Thane." Sniffling it. Thane led her back into the house, upstairs, and into her bedroom, and they had busy sex. Thane fell asleep almost 2 hours later. Della lay there, thinking about her future. So far, being apart from Perry has been wonderful. Love or not, Thane was every woman's dream. Thane soon woke up, and the two of them took a shower and checked the refrigerator. There wasn't much there. They went to Popeye's. Thane loved Popeye's. Then he brought her back to him and had her all night. He felt obligated to cheer her up. A week passed without news from Perry. Della had talked to the kids and knew Perry was somewhere in the super expensive camper. She wondered where he got the money for this. Not from the feds, like Lefty in the song. She decided she needed to check the bank accounts. Thane continued to console Della in one place or another. Mrs. Healy Carter saw them come and go. Another week passed without contact with Perry, and another one, and 2 months. All this time, Thane was nearby, comforting her. Della fell in love with him. She believed that it was not just sex, but she knew that it was impossible to separate one from the other. Thane was also at least infatuated with Della. Their sexual compatibility was constant. His guys loved her, and she had some song suggestions. She didn't know how to cook. But this was not a fatal flaw. Thane had a good cook. Sexy, too, for those times when he felt alone. 6 months passed, and Della did not hear a single word from Perry. She had a new life, but she still missed him. Sometimes, these times became increasingly rare. Perry. After Pittsburgh, Perry headed west through Ohio and then down the Mississippi. He stopped in New Orleans. He stayed there for a month, but got tired of it. He then went to Galveston, where he found a semi-permanent location for his wagon. Perry kept in touch with the children, but made them promise not to tell Della where he was. He knew she was living with Thane because Eileen told him. She and Alan met with Thane. Eileen really liked it. Alan, not so much. In Galveston, Perry met a young woman, Nellie. She ran a car repair shop near where he parked the van. When he first saw her, she was driving a Chevrolet. When she came out, he liked what he saw. He stopped by to see if the service could service his van. Nellie said that maybe, bring it. He did just that. He waited and watched her. She had staff and other mechanics, but she decided to take care of his van herself. She liked what she saw in Perry. Perry changed a lot during his journey. He was tanned, slim 165 pounds, but muscular. His hair became lighter, and he let it grow even longer, and he noticed that women were attracted to him in his new state. He took advantage of this several times during the trip, especially in New Orleans. He wasn't desperate, but he liked Nellie Blyton. He asked her out after she serviced his van. She agreed and ended up serving him. Or, well, rather, he served her. By the time 6 months had passed since the start of his journey, he was living in Nellie's house. Over the next 6 months, they went out in the van several times. It was convenient for him that Nellie could serve him, and him. Towards the end of the year, they went to State University to see his children. We spent a week there. Everyone got along. Nellie walked with Eileen and learned about Della's future affairs. Della planned to file for divorce from Perry for abandoning the family. She had lost all hope of restoring her marriage. She didn't want that. She was a semi-permanent resident of Thane's new home. She made a deal on the house. It was a great place. Lots of rooms and a studio for recording. She and Thane still had a sexual relationship, and they liked each other. There will be no marriage, and there will be no agreement about allegiance. Thane and Della discussed this. She knew he would cheat, and she knew that if he was there, so would she. So they left it like that. When Thane was away at night, Della used some of his talents. She was rarely disappointed. Perry called Della about the divorce. Almost a year passed, and he decided he didn't want her to get all the money from the sale of the house. They hired a lawyer to handle everything. Alan was the one who communicated with the lawyer. Perry and Della were polite to each other when talking on the phone. They never met in person. 6 months later, the documents were delivered to Perry at Nellie's house, which now became his permanent residence. Nellie and Perry made a deal. Without marriage, no pooling of finances, but sexual fidelity, a deal that seemed to be working. Nellie liked sex with Perry and vice versa. Perry remained lean and strong. Nellie remained beautiful when she put herself in order, and the van received excellent service too. But more than that, they got along. They liked the same films, basically, and they liked to read thrillers and detective stories. They talked, ran together, even lifted weights together. Alan's graduation was the first time the two ex-spouses saw each other since Della left with Thane. 2 years have passed since then. Nellie and Perry arrived in a van from Texas. They had a pleasant, leisurely ride. But Perry wasn't looking forward to meeting Della. As he understood, she would be accompanied by Thane. Eileen was delighted with this. This got Perry thinking. On the phone before the graduation trip, Perry warned Eileen not to get too involved with Thane. His straightforward opinion was, trouble happens to guys like these. You don't want to be involved in this. Remember that guy Biggie and Tupac. Perry and Nellie hooked up the van at a campsite near where the graduation ceremony was to take place. Both Alan and Eileen saw the van and knew Nellie. Nellie was 38 and didn't need much to look fabulous once she got her act together. She was 5'6", 130 pounds and muscular from her job. But she had such a sweet, innocent face that people did not notice her strength. The first time Perry slept with her, he realized how strong she was. This caused him to gain some mass in the form of self-defense. He now weighed about 170 pounds and was very strong. He had long hair, lighter than before due to the Texas sun. All in all, he and Nellie looked like a couple on the cover of a magazine when they wanted to. All of which explains why Della sat in her folding chair when she saw the couple at the graduation ceremony. Thane was there, and he didn't recognize Perry at all. Della, of course, found out. She planned to be polite to Perry, but cold. She and Thane talked about it. But when she saw Perry with a stunning woman on his arm, she immediately became angry. The first thought was, why couldn't he be like this when we were married? So she looked gloomily at Perry and Nellie. Thane noticed this and took her 10 yards away. They discussed it in whispers and then approached the group. Perry, Nellie, and the children saw it all. Thane and Della walked up and Thane said, "You look completely different. I didn't recognize you, Perry." Perry nodded. Then he said, "This is my partner, Nellie." Nellie waved but didn't move. Alan, who was wearing a robe and cap, said, "I have to go to class now. Meet me outside Dryer Hall after." He left. The remaining 5 took their places in the stands. We hardly spoke. The ceremony lasted more than 90 minutes. When the speeches ended, all 5 met outside Dryer Hall. Alan and Eileen had a plan for all 6 of them to have dinner at an expensive restaurant near campus. Eileen wasn't sure of that now because the atmosphere was so tense. She decided to continue. Alan took off his robe and everyone walked to the new location. But he thought that trouble might happen soon. His father was clearly tense and ready, and to his surprise, Nellie also seemed ready. When everyone was seated for dinner, Della and Perry did not exchange a word. Nellie also didn't talk to Della or Thane. Eileen said, "Everyone needs to relax." Alan added, "Yeah, my graduation. You have some things to figure out. But for now, well, let's cut some slack." Perry turned to his children. "Like what? I'm not going to make any friends here. I don't like lateral, and Della is way in my past." Della said, "Maybe if you had straightened yourself out when we were married, this wouldn't have happened." Thane said, "My name is no longer lateral." Perry said, "I don't like Thane either." Nellie simply watched all this, but she thought it was worth trying to achieve peace for Alan's sake. She said, "I agree with Alan and Eileen. So, hi Thane. Hi Della. I'm Nellie Blyton." She waved her hand. Thane smiled at her and said, "Hi." Della didn't smile. She said, "Okay, I don't have anything against you, Nellie." Eileen said, "That leaves my parents." Perry looked at Della. Della looked at Perry. Neither of them said a word. Thane said, Della, come on." Della lowered her head and said, "You look good, Perry. Maybe it's all for the best." Perry shook his head. "I did meet Nellie through all of this, and I have a van. But you and I will never be friends, not with Thane either." Nellie hit him on the arm. She said, "No need for friendship. No malice." Perry growled, "Okay, I'll try." And dinner continued. Civilization has triumphed. However, neither parent spoke to the other. When they left the restaurant, Alan and Eileen went to a party, leaving the adults standing in the street outside the restaurant. Thane said, "Nice to meet you, Nellie, and to see you again, Perry. Della and I are going to a nightclub. You're invited, at my expense. Well, free for me." Perry laughed. "Which way are you going?" Thane pointed down the street. Perry took Nellie's hand and led her in the opposite direction. They walked around to where they had parked the van, got in, and drove off. As they hooked up the van for the night, Nellie said, "Perry, I understand your attitude. But, you know, holding on to these negative feelings too tightly is not good for you." "I can't help it. You know what I'd really like? To kick Lateral's ass and slap Della too." Thane looked strong. "You must not mess with him." "Oh, maybe not, but I can dream." Nellie looked at him strangely. She said, "Yes." Perry looked at her. He said, "Do you like him?" "I don't know him, but I can definitely understand what Della sees in him." So if he hit on you, would you go with him? No, stupid. I would be left without you, but I want you. But suppose you didn't know either of us and could spend the night with one of us. Who would you spend it with? Nellie turned away and then said, with him. We said we'd be honest with each other. So, with him. Why? I mean, he's famous and all. I'm not. Nellie said, he's hot, he's big, and he's got a huge reputation. We need to change the subject. Perry fell silent. He said, okay, where are we going tomorrow? They went to Baltimore for the Orioles game. After the game, they had a great time on the campers' camp bed. Perry wondered if Nellie was thinking about Thane. He left it. As it turned out, it was that night, as they both believed, that Nellie became pregnant. She had a bad marriage in the past, and after that she never had a permanent partner with whom to raise a child. Now he was, and they were both so confident in each other that they decided to have a child while it was still possible. Perry thought 52 wasn't too old, and Nellie wanted to be a mother, so going to prom was also an experiment in fertility. It didn't take long. At the end of February of the following year, Mary Beth was born. They got married at the end of January with a strong prenuptial agreement. Alan and Eileen were delighted with the arrival of their half-sister. They both arrived in Galveston within a week. Perry allowed photographs to be taken, but made them promise to keep them away from Della and Thane. Nellie's advice about letting go of hostility had little effect. When Mary Beth was 1 year old, Thane and Della were returning from a trip to the Super Bowl. They went to a nightclub near their home. Thane ordered a limousine to pick them up at midnight. The driver opened the door for Della as Thane got into the back seat on the other side. Shots rang out from the sidewalk. Police later found 19 shell casings at the scene. Thane was dead before he hit the ground. The two shooters fled on stolen motorcycles. Della was wounded by 2 bullets in her right calf. She was rushed to the hospital, barely conscious. She spent 2 weeks there because both bones in her lower leg were broken. It took 3 months for her to be able to walk without assistance. She will probably always walk with a limp. While in hospital, Eileen and Alan visited her frequently. She had health insurance through a company, but no housing. She had been living in Thane's house since the divorce. She rented a 1-room apartment near her work. She wanted nothing more to do with the world of music. Della slacked off her house sales while living with Thane. Not completely, of course. Now she needed to get back to it. She found herself alone, essentially without money and driven by sales. One evening, taking into account her situation and finishing a bottle of wine, she realized that her affair with Thane had cost her a comfortable life and family. She mourned him, of course, but if she had to do it all over again, she knew that she would rather sell him the house and stay with Perry. Well, maybe having occasional sessions with Thane. But she should have done everything she could to get Perry back to mental and physical health. She knew that she had ruined her life with her own hands. She had good memories of Thane, but they were, for the moment, overshadowed by the horror of his murder. Perry and Nellie had their second child, a boy named Pete. They were happy, and Perry was practically a stay-at-home dad, trading stocks. He and Nellie were shocked by the shooting. Nellie contacted Eileen to inquire about Della's condition. She and Perry sent a get-well card to the hospital. Nellie had to persuade Perry to sign it. There were no words, "with love," only "with respect." And subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.